Hey guys, Alex and Dad from 7th Hour Films back again with Doctor Who Modern. Last time around we had Dalek. What was that one about?
Well, they land in literally an underground fortress in Utah in the early 2000s. And there's this multi-billionaire who's collecting alien relics, and apparently one of them is the last remaining Dalek from the Time War. And due to a mix-up in instructions, Rose touches it, and it takes some of her DNA or something and revives itself, only to realize that it had also taken part of her human personality. And as a result, although it wanted freedom and it wanted to get out and try to find, if there were any other Daleks left, it began to realize that it had failed, and as a result couldn't live with itself as a Dalek whose, mission is to exterminate everything that is not Dalek. And at one point the Doctor said something to it that, you're an complete ultimate failure and you should destroy yourself. And literally the greatest line in Doctor Who that I've ever heard, when the Dalek looks at him and says, "You would have made a good Dalek." And then it blows up.
Yeah. So, it's a good episode. Technically, I didn't really need a recap. I've seen this 3 times now, but...
that's for you.
Yeah, so... But all of these videos all these episodes that we're going to rewatch in modern Doctor Who will be my 3rd time watching them on camera, so... And hoping that everything can actually go on YouTube. I will...
Why would it be 3rd time? Why have you watched them twice?
Because I watched it once myself, and then I watched it with you... for the tour of Modern Who, and then watched it the 3rd time.
I thought you said all of them, so no.
Yeah. So, but yeah, hoping that everything, hoping that, this is viewable right now. At the time of recording this, my YouTube channel is kind of broken, and I've tried reaching out to YouTube through the one way that you can do, which is praying that they read their Twitter notifications. And currently, the YouTube channel's kind of broken. Hopefully, there's the good news, and again, I'm hoping this is all resolved by the time you see this video, but there's the good thing of videos are not completely unviewable. So there's 3 different levels of 3 different ways you can set a video. There's public, everyone can see it. There's private, no one can see it. And then there's unlisted, which means you can watch it, but only if you have the specific link. It won't show up in subscription boxes or something. And I generally keep videos on Patreon unlisted until they need to go public, and luckily those seem to be fine. So at the very least, videos are viewable if you can go and look for them. They're just not showing up in subscription boxes right now. I have an idea of how I can get around that, but I don't know. So, and I suppose the worst case scenario is I'll just move everything to a different channel.
Yikes.
I do have multiple other channels, and I can just make a new one on the fly if I need to. And I probably, I wouldn't, move all the videos from one channel to another, but I would just start uploading on another channel and hope that people figure that out. So, I don't know. But anyway, if you're watching this, though, hopefully none of those problems exist. So, but that's pretty much where we are. You got anything else?
I got nothing.
Then we might as well jump right into the long game.
So, it's 200,000, it's a spaceship. No, wait a minute, space station, and go and try that gate over there. Off you go.
200,000.
200,000.
Adam.
Oh yeah, and they brought Adam.
Oh my god.
Don't worry, we'll get used to it.
I forgot about him.
Where are we?
Everyone forgets about Adam.
Let's see. So, judging by the architecture, I'd say we're around the year 200,000. Yeah, definitely a space station. It's a bit warm in here, they could turn the heating down. Tell you what, let's try that gate. Come on.
Good job, you sound very impressive.
The 4th great and bountiful human empire, and there it is, planet Earth at its height. Covered with mega cities, 5 moons, population 96 billion.
Wow, we made 4 more moons.
Of a galactic domain stretching across 1 million planets, 1 million species, with mankind right in the middle. He's your boyfriend.
Not anymore.
Hey, to be fair, Mickey would have acted the same way.
Yeah. Mickey would have thrown up first.
Probably.
Fine cuisine.
My watch must be wrong. No, it's fine. It's weird.
That's what comes of showing up. Your history's not as good as you thought it was.
My history's perfect.
Well, obviously not.
They're all
Well,
human,
you gotta go
but they're
find
millions
the good
of planets,
cuisine.
millions of species.
There you go. Pocket money. Don't spend it all on sweets.
Well, how does it work?
Go and find out. Stop nagging me. The thing is, Adam, time travel's like visiting Paris. You can't just read the guidebook. You've got to throw yourself in, eat the food, use the wrong verbs, get charged double, and end up kissing complete strangers. Or is that just me? Stop asking questions.
If it gets me to floor 500, I'll do anything.
Why? What happens on floor 500?
The walls are made of gold. And you should know, Mr. Management.
She looks familiar.
So, this is what we do.
I think she was on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Oh.
Latest 200
and
dead.
maybe Black Lightning.
Glasgow Water Rhine. And over on the Bad Wolf channel, the face of
Bad
Bo
Wolf
is just
again.
announced he's pregnant.
I get it. You broadcast the news.
Yeah, but the face of
We
Bo
are
is
the
pregnant.
news.
That's important.
We're the journalists. We write it, package it, and sell it. 600 channels, all coming out of Satellite 5, broadcasting everywhere.
Yeah, but do you get HBO?
Something is wrong.
Is that Michael Sheen?
No, it's Simon Pegg, but it's close.
He does look like Michael Sheen, yes. Simon Pegg, interesting.
Try this. It's called Zaffic. It's nice. It's like a slush puppy.
What flavour?
Sort of beef.
It's like everything's gone. Home, family, everything.
This helps. And Doctor gave it a bit of a top up.
To be fair, you didn't have much home.
Yeah.
You were under Utah.
Oi, Martin Jet, over here.
I'm surprising that even in 2005 people would remember who Mutt and Jeff were.
Okay, so, ladies, gentlemen, multi-sex, undecided or robot, my name is Kathika Santini Kadani.
Ugh.
What about all these people around the edge?
They've all got tiny little chips in the head connecting them to her, and they transmit 600 channels. Every single fact in the Empire beams out of this place. Now that's what I call power.
So this is how the 24-hour news channels work.
So not fair. I've been applying to floor 500 for 3 years.
What's floor 500?
The walls are made of gold.
Kathika, I'm gonna miss you.
Another reminder that in the future, it still sucks.
Didn't do anything.
Well, you're
In
my lucky
Tahiti,
charm.
it's a magical place.
All right, I'll hug anyone.
Come on, it's not that bad.
What with the head thing?
Yeah, we just closed it now.
Yeah, but
Yeah, but when you move your eyebrows up, how does the metal, like... Eh.
anyway, I'll be on the deck.
Here you go. Take the TARDIS key. You know, just in case it gets a bit too much.
Yeah, like it's not weird in there.
Yeah. It's a fair point.
Ice Planet Hoth.
Eh. It's always Christmas on floor 500.
And archaeology. I'm not an expert or anything, I just like digging.
Liar!
I want to work for Satellite 5 because my sister can't afford university. And the pay scheme is really good.
Liar!
We don't pay you very well at all.
Fact, shall we?
Who is he? Where is he?
He's overseeing everything. Literally everything. If you don't mind, I'm gonna have to refer this upwards.
Yeah, when we say oversee, like, over.
Boss. Why's all the crew human?
What's that got to do with anything?
There's no aliens on board. Why?
I don't know. No real reason. They're not banned or anything.
Then where are they?
I suppose immigration's tightened up. It's had to, what with all the threats.
What threat?
I don't know. All of them, usual stuff.
They had the sense just to not come here.
The great and bountiful human empire's stunted. Something's holding it back.
And how would you know?
Trust me. Humanity's been set back about 90 years. When did Satellite 5 start broadcasting?
91 years ago.
Mum, Dad, keep this message, okay?
Whatever you do, don't erase it. Save it. You got that?
What's down there?
Isn't that where she said medical was?
Yeah. Oh, Adam, you're getting into a whole heap of trouble.
What are you, a student?
Yes, yeah, I'm
Sounds better than tourist.
on a research... Hold on. Can I use this?
That'll do nicely.
It all comes down to two basic types.
Should have spent your money on sweets.
Turns out, you've got unlimited credit. You can transmit any piece of information from the archive of Satellite 5, which is just about the entire history of the human race. Now,
Quite the saleswoman.
Eh,
which one's it going to be?
we're just going to take out the slight information that you have the unlimited credits, and I'm going to keep this for myself.
How do I activate it?
It's a personal choice. Some people whistle. I know one man who triggers it with, "Oh, Danny boy."
That's her gone. Adam's given up. Looks like it's just you and me.
Yeah.
Good.
Yep.
This whole episode is to show you the value of Rose as a companion.
Special offer. We installed the Vomitomatic at the same time. Nanotermites have been placed in the lining of your throat. In the event of sickness, they freeze the waste.
Very efficient, I must say.
Efficient, but a terrible idea.
It's merely a place where humans happen to live. Yeah. Sorry. It's a place where humans are allowed to live by kind permission of my client.
Yeah.
And humanity's guiding light, the mighty Jagrafess of the holy Hadrajastic Maxoraptor. I call him Max.
It looks like the tail end of Jabba the Hutt. With teeth.
Is a slave a slave? If he doesn't know, he's enslaved.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was hoping for a philosophical debate. Is that all I'm gonna get?
Yes. Yes.
You're no fun.
Let me out of these manacles. You'll find out how much fun I am.
Oh, he's tough, isn't he?
What about you? You're not a belly...
Jagrafess.
Jagrafess? You're not a Jagrafess. You're human.
Yeah, well, simply being human doesn't pay very well.
But you couldn't have done this all
Well,
on
that's
your
true.
own.
Who sent you? Who knows about us?
Time Lord. What? Oh, yes. The last of the Time Lords in his traveling machine. Oh, with his little human girl from long ago.
Don't know what you're talking about.
Time travel.
Good job, Adam.
Someone's been... You and your boyfriends.
Today, we are the headlines.
Oh, sorry, Jim. Ugh.
Want to bank on a certainty? Massive reach and massive body. Massive bang.
Yeah.
See you in the headlines.
Oh, God, so much sweat. Oh. Yuck.
See ya.
How do you mean, see ya?
As in goodbye.
What about me? You can't just go. I've got a chip tight too. My head opens.
What, like this?
Don't.
Don't do what?
Stop it.
All right now, Doctor, that's enough. Stop it.
Oi.
Sorry, I couldn't resist.
You told me
Rose,
you were coming home.
take me with you.
I would have got your favourite tea. Hey, what's that noise? You left the back door on. What a surprise. Oh, let me look at you. Oh, 6 months. It's like I saw you yesterday. Isn't it funny? The time goes by like that.
Alrighty. That's the end of Adam's tenure. I think there might be a comic book where Adam comes back and he's evil and he's trying to get revenge on the Doctor, but in terms of the show, Adam never comes back. So,
very early on, again, this is, 2005, 2006. Yeah. Social media back then was not like it is. This has that echoes of Vengeance on Varos.
You know, that was something I kind of thought about. I was like, I really didn't understand the message of this story in 2018. Suddenly now I see where they're coming from a lot more.
Yeah. We have essentially one entity aided by the super wealthy bankers, which is essentially what we've got today. I mean, you got the, what they call them, venture capitalists, the VCs, like, I don't know, the company that Mitt Romney used to work for. They're pooling all their money to try to get Trump elected. Sorry, political commentary here. Because they think that he will be controllable, right? That they will be able to get whatever they want if they've got a pliable, somebody who is in it for himself, not for the good of the country. So, again, this is foreshadowing, and again, it may have been happening in Great Britain at the same time. Again, I'm not exactly sure who was the prime minister or what the government was. I think they just said they ended 14 years of conservative rule, so that means this is ahead of that, so it was probably still Labour or somebody else at that point. But again, it's very forward-looking, saying that if we don't control the information, then we're going to be in big trouble, because all it takes is somebody who can change the narrative, to force the narrative to what they want, and then everybody believes it.
Yeah, so like just that little bit of, he's like, well, we tell them little things, we put this on, we say this word, we say that word a couple more times, then that word catches on, and it's like, this definitely sounds like the modern media landscape, and there is sort of, I suppose you could say there's almost a separation, but it's not really a separation between, like, the media that we have, on the news, on television, where, it's like, well, these are professional people giving their professional opinions for 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You have to find enough of those kinds of people, versus what some guy says on Twitter, and it's pretty much always Twitter, because Twitter is like pretty much the fastest of the social media, is just to get something out there. Yeah. And I would say there's almost a separation of those two. But let's be frank, there's really not. There's really not a separation between those two, and just everything that has spiraled over the last 10 years. And yeah, it's all, you can always leave it to Doctor Who to predict. It's you can always leave it to Doctor Who to predict your terrible future, because it will come true, and Doctor Who warned you.
Yeah.
So,
well, even in one that we didn't care for, the Happiness Patrol, or what was it, the Happiness something? Was it?
Yeah, it was Happiness Patrol.
Yeah, where you've got someone who's trying to make everything wonderful, but it's the same problem. You've got a lack of genuine thought. People are being fed a complete diet of nonsense, and they have no reason not to believe it.
Yeah. So,
democracy is messy.
Yeah.
I recall correctly, it was Winston Churchill who once said, "Democracy is the worst form of government, except for all the others."
Yeah, pretty much. It's like there's, like, the problem. At the end of the day, the main problem with democracy is, it's a way to let all the people in, in on the decisions. But the problem is you have to let all the people in on the decisions. Have you ever met people? People are terrible. A person can be good. People generally aren't.
Isn't that what they said in Men in Black? Something to the effect of, people are scared. Individual people are scared. You get them all together, though, if you can convince them all to work together. And that's the thing, is working together. You have to understand, in democracy, the word that goes with democracy is compromise. All right? You respect the rights of the minority, but the majority has to rule. All right? So, and again, that gets to the point where, like in the United States in the early 1800s, there seemed to be a majority of states that wanted slavery. As it turns out, it really wasn't. It was a minority. The southern slaveholders were a bunch of very small, a group of very, very wealthy landowners and slaveholders who, because of the system that we had, whereas you have the House of Representatives based on population, but the Senate based on 2 senators from each state. So you have a state like Texas who has 2 senators. You have a state like Vermont who has 2 senators. And Vermont has maybe 1/50th the population of Texas. But all those southern states and their senators managed to keep that system in place from literally 1611 up to 1861. So it's just a matter of, you have to figure out a working way to, again, have majority rule, but respecting the rights of the minority. You have to compromise. That's what democracy is all about.
Well, and it's also the thing of, you'll never know how small a group can really be, because generally they're going to also be the loudest.
Yeah.
Like, if they're really, really loud, you'll think, oh my gosh, well, this is a big deal. They keep mentioning, they keep, shouting about this and stuff, and then you really look and it's like, wait a minute. Yeah, it's kind of like, I guess for a non-political kind of example, is like, if you go to like a fandom and you see like the Star Wars fandom, if you look at the general discourse over like Star Wars, you'll think this is one of the most doomed franchises in the history of media. It's not. Those are just a very, very vocal group of people that just hate everything about Star Wars. And also part of the reason, why a lot of those people are so vocal about hating Star Wars is because they can get paid for hating Star Wars that loudly. It's like, there's still a lot of people that'll watch the Ahsoka show or Boba Fett or Clone Wars or something, and they watch it and they're like, yeah, that was good. I enjoyed that. But they're not going to be yelling as loud as the people that look at a Star Wars show and say, wow, this is terrible. George wouldn't have wanted this. It's woke garbage or something like that. And it's like, and I use the Star Wars example. It's the exact same thing in Doctor Who.
Yeah.
So,
I have a friend of mine who pointed out just this morning that the Nazis never actually had more than about 37% of the German population on their side. But because of how vocal they were and the fact that they armed themselves, and they were able as a minority to force the majority, the other, some 50, 60, some odd percentage, to do what they wanted, because they simply had the voices and then ultimately took control of the government, armed their followers, and made everybody follow what they were doing.
Yeah, so it's an interesting thing, because this is one of the episodes in this season that I think is one of the lesser appreciated episodes. Like this, and maybe like I guess the Slitheen 2-parter are kind of like down, not really hated, but just kind of down on the list. You got great episodes like Dalek. We've got a couple great episodes coming up in this back half of the season, but this one is definitely lower on the totem pole. And going into this, I was like, okay, the long game. What do I remember about the long game? It's like, well, they're on the satellite. Simon Pegg is there. That's it. It's been like, what is it? Like 6.5 years since I've watched it. Nearly 7 years since I watched this episode. And I was like, okay, well, we'll watch it and we'll have a good time. Simon Pegg is in. That's always fun. And then just watching it, I'm like, boy, I did not pick up on these themes 6.5 years ago. And it's like, and there's multiple different things happening. You have the media that's controlling all the information of the great and bountiful human empire. You have Kathika, who's, starting to basically take the blinders off, starting to ask questions, which eventually allows her to basically save the day in the way that, the Doctor can't, basically, because he's tied up, but he at least inspires her to go and do this. And also, and it's weird because, like, I almost wonder, like, I don't think this was an afterthought, but it's like, I'm curious, like, what the thought process was of having the subplot with Adam. Because at a point, he basically does just sort of go, and he's sort of on his own story, but it does sort of play into that narrative of, controlling the information and, altering, as the Doctor said, the human race should not be at this point, like 100 years basically, where they were stunted. They haven't developed as far as they should. And Adam, essentially, while he thought, well, I can, I'll take this knowledge back in time, and that will advance the human race, but that's not how it's supposed to go.
Yeah. I think he was thinking he would be, what was the multi-billionaire's name in the last episode?
Van Statten.
Van Statten. I thought he was thinking, Van Statten had all this money and he wasn't using it for good. He said, but I can now take this knowledge back to Earth, and not only can I improve things on Earth, but it will make me a multi-billionaire like Van Statten was, because he thought he had not been acknowledged for his contributions to Van Statten's wealth. So
yeah,
I mean, it's just, I understand his motivation originally was, I could help people out, but again, like a lot of other people, he is then overtaken by greed.
Yeah, well, and it makes you wonder, just with the writing process, and maybe someone knows and will put it in the comments, like, what the decision was to keep Adam on, but only for one episode, and not to have him be a sort of typical companion. He can't really adjust to this, but then not only this, like, he kind of does adjust, but then he's trying to be sneaky. He's trying to go. He knows that the Doctor will not approve of this, but he does it anyway, and he goes to try to steal the secrets, and even spending the money to get a door in his head and little, like, nanite things that will freeze his sick into an ice cube, which is, ugh.
You could have used that when we flew to Portland.
Yeah.
Although he did not throw up.
I didn't throw up. I kept everything in, but
someday we'll tell you about the flight to Alaska.
Yeah, that was a long time ago, though.
Well, it was a long time ago. What were you, like 9 then?
Something like that, yeah. So, but Adam goes through all of this, and it does make you wonder, because, it's not the same writer. Last episode, I think, was Robert Shearman for that episode. And at the end, Adam gets on the TARDIS, and this time, it's Russell T Davies, who is, the main showrunner, the main writer, and he just decides, like, I wonder, like, what the thought process was. If maybe he thought, well, can I do something with Adam? Or, like, I don't know what the thought process was of taking Adam. I don't know. I'm curious, because it's an interesting part of the story that almost, like, it's part of the plot and also kind of not part of the plot at the same time. But it's also just, it kind of puts everything into perspective at the end when the Doctor says, I only take the best. And it makes you think about, like, literally every other companion he's ever had, and then you realized, oh, they are still the best. Like my first thought is like, he's not really a good companion. My first thought goes all the way back to Adric, and it's like, but Adric wouldn't have done something like this, Yeah. Adric would have looked at this, either he would have, looked at it and said, well, your math is not up to par, or something like that. But he wouldn't have, if he was in this sort of situation, he still wouldn't have brought this information back. But Adric was that sort of mathematical genius. He didn't need something like that.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, Adric was kind of annoying, but he wasn't blatantly breaking the rules of time travel and doing this stuff that he knew that the Doctor would hate, like Adam did.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting thing, and I like, honestly, that the Doctor, like, doesn't fix him, doesn't do anything. He just drops him back in 2012 with a door and nanites in his throat, and he's just like, all right, good luck. You spent your money on that, now you have to live with it. So you just gotta hope that nobody snaps. One of the most common things that humans do, which is just snapping. Like, never go to like a poetry club or anything where they start snapping at the end of it, or it'll be terrible. So
can you? I know there's maybe a preview here. Can you fast forward to who played Kathika? Because again, she looked very familiar.
Can you do this? Skip further ahead. Skip further ahead. Further ahead. Ah, there it is.
Christine Adams.
Yeah, she was definitely I think in like the early seasons of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. She was like the like a mentor to Fitz and Simmons, and then I think she was the wife on Black Lightning.
That's where I think I remember her from. I don't remember her being in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah, so but yeah, overall, I mean, watching this again, understanding it is kind of the Vengeance on Varos thing, where it's like, now I'm watching this and I'm like, oh, I understand this way more than I did the first time. And again, it's one of those things, it's like, it's become so much more relevant, I feel like. Even though, again, in 2018, it's not like that wasn't relevant at that point, the role of media in the world. It's just that, if anything, it just has kept getting worse and more prevalent, and probably especially, after everything that the world had to go through during COVID-19, that it's just like, I just understand it a lot more now. The only thing maybe about this episode is that it's like, the head, the boss of the editor-in-chief is just this weird kind of, gross thing. It's like, it's a little obvious, and it is kind of a shame that it's like, you don't really know this thing, there's no personality or anything, you're just getting it off of Simon Pegg's character. But other than that, this was way more interesting the second time around. Yeah. So
now, I don't want to say this is a flaw in the overall story, but you have an alien whose survival seems to be his top priority, but doesn't explain why he thinks he needs to take over the entire empire to do that. I mean, taking over the station is one thing, and manipulating it so that people on the station don't know that he's there. But I don't see how controlling the entire empire ends up cooling him off.
Yeah, it's just a thing of... I mean, it's really just a thing of wherever he would have ended up, they would have done that thing where they pump all the AC basically into wherever he is. That's just sort of a side effect. But no, they never really go into why is the Jagrafess doing what he's doing. Like, because there's no personality. He's just this big media monster there, and the only person you're talking to is Simon Pegg.
So this big amorphous blob was also amoral, controlling a media empire and literally the history and politics of an entire empire. That also, again, predates the arrival of, certain people on the American political scene who are only out for themselves and whatever it takes for them to survive.
I mean, between that and other people that created entire news networks with certain goals in mind,
that's Murdochian.
This almost feels like a Third Doctor episode when we put it like that. It's like yeah, we've had episodes in this season where it's you see a lot of it and it's kind of even more relevant now, but it's like that is such a Third Doctor thing of like, yeah, we made this episode a long time ago and it only gets more and more accurate as we go on. So
now, am I correct in remembering that Russell T Davies, that's who's in charge?
Yeah.
At this point, that he was a big Doctor Who fan back in the 80s and 90s.
Yeah.
And so maybe he's, again, going off of themes that he saw then. I don't know if he would have been old enough to remember the Third Doctor or not. But he's basically just taking that and moving them into the modern era where he is now in charge and saying, I can craft some of these same political type stories and science stories, unbridled science. It's not a matter of if you can do it, but whether you should do it or not. So it's just, it's his own background coming out here, I'm sure.
Yeah, it is the difference of, when we talk about, like, it would have been interesting to see a show with the Eighth Doctor after the TV movie. You do kind of look at it and think, well, while that would have been interesting and Paul McGann would have been great, did they know how to make Doctor Who, how to adapt Doctor Who to a modern age? Because with the movie, sure, we liked the TV movie, but it was just sort of a kind of action plot. We have to defeat the Master. I mean, it was every Master episode I've ever seen. Yeah. But whereas this, it's like this, probably just because it got a full season, definitely keeps the heart of Doctor Who. He is
or
just
2 hearts,
or 2 hearts technically, but he is just a man in a box with his friend going through time, and we see different things. We see historical events and how like those historical people were and how you can interact with them, and we go to the future and we see different things that can tie back to where we are today or where we'll be 20 years from now even, or we'll go and just have, quite honestly, just an episode where it's like, we're going to have the greatest performances in the entire show, and it's all going to be Christopher Eccleston talking to a giant pepper pot. But it's still amazing. So that's definitely the thing, is while it could have been something with the initial revival, this definitely keeps the heart of Doctor Who.
Yeah.
So, or 2 of them. So, you got anything else?
I got nothing.
All right. Well, next up, we have an episode called Father's Day.
Okay.
So what do you want for Father's Day? I don't know. That joke's going nowhere anyway. So, but yeah, and we are now in the back half of this season. So, this is 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 6 more episodes. Yeah. So
this was the halfway point.
Yeah.
Now, again, if you had mentioned, I was going to say, there are a lot of people who, in the fandom, who don't think highly of this one. But here's the deal. It's not Dalek. It's not Rose. It's not some of the others we've seen. But if I had to grade it, I'd still give it a B+.
Yeah. Like, as you're watching it, it's like the execution, it's good. It's fine. It's not the most exciting thing. I mean, for the longest time, the Doctor and Rose are just kind of, going around. They're trying to ask questions. Kathika's not really giving any answers. They're trying to look things up in the mainframe and stuff like that. So it's like the pacing is not as, like, the structure of it is not as solid, but all the themes are still there.
Yeah.
So, overall, it's still, like, even this season at its worst is still some of the best Doctor Who, honestly.
Yeah.
So, as opposed to other seasons, and this, I don't want to sound biased, because this goes both ways, both from everything we've seen to everything we're going to still watch. Sometimes when a season is at its worst, is it bad? We've seen that in Classic Who.
Yeah.
There will be points of that in modern Doctor Who. But this season especially, it was it was interesting because someone, and I think I mentioned this, someone on Twitter, I think, pointed out that this season and the most recent season have a lot of things in common. Like, even sort of a lot of story beats are similar. They're obviously very different, but there are similar kind of story beats in it. And while I enjoyed the latest season, as I thought of this season, I was like, oh yeah, this is just a top-notch season. So, and there are other top-notch seasons. That is my one worry, is if I keep hyping up this season, he's going to think there's nothing else good for the next 14 years. But no, there's a lot of great stuff. But for some reason, this season is just really tight and good. So, but yeah, you got anything else?
I got nothing.
Then that is basically it. With all of that being said, we're Alex and Dad from 7th Hour Films, and we will see you guys next time. Take care. Alright guys, thanks for watching this video. There's a bunch of links on screen if you want to go click around any of those. There's a playlist with all of our modern Doctor Who reactions, as well as another playlist for all of our classic Doctor Who reactions if you want to go check those out. There's also a subscribe button and a Patreon button on screen, as well as other links in the description if you want to go check out any of those. See you guys later.